I'm sure you've been there. You scroll through a dozen router listings, each one promising enterprise-grade reliability, always in Wi-Fi, and a simple plug-and-play setup. The pictures look clean, the specs read like a tech brochure, but when you finally get the box home, the reality can feel a lot less impressive. It's a frustrating spot because a bad router can stall a whole small office, slow down point-of-sale systems, or even jeopardize a backup connection you were counting on for remote work. I'm going to walk through the Cradlepoint E300 paired with the 5-year NetCloud Enterprise Branch Essentials plan so you can avoid that disappointment and decide if it really matches what you need. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, what makes the E300 different from a regular consumer Wi-Fi box is the built-in 150 megabits per second LTE advanced modem and the fact that Cradlepoint bundles a 5-year cloud management subscription right into the purchase. That subscription is the real kicker. It's not just a router you manage yourself. You get a dashboard that handles firmware, security policies, and even remote SIM swaps without you ever opening the chassis. For a small business that isn't staffed with a dedicated IT person, that can be a lifesaver. But it also means you're buying a service as much as a piece of hardware, so you have to be clear on whether you'll actually use that managed layer. Let's start with the setup experience. When I unboxed the E300, the first thing I noticed was the modular design. The LTE module slides out, the antenna ports are clearly labeled, and the power brick is a standard 12V wall wart, which is nice because you can swap it for a PO injector if you prefer a cleaner rack. The initial configuration is done through Cradlepoint's NetCloud dashboard. You register the device, choose your carrier, and the system pushes the latest firmware automatically. In my test office, that whole process took about 15 minutes from opening the box to having an active Wi-Fi network with a secure WPA3 passphrase. The dashboard also gives you a visual map of data usage per device, which helped us spot a rogue printer that was chewing through bandwidth at night. Now, the real question is performance in everyday use. The 150 megabits per second LTE modem is not the fastest on the market, but it's more than adequate for most branch office needs. In a real-world scenario where we were running a point-of-sale system, a handful of VoIP phones, and a cloud-based inventory app, the router consistently delivered upstream speeds in the 3,040 megabits per second range and downstream around 80,100 megabits per second under typical LTE coverage. That's enough to keep transactions snappy and video calls clear, even during peak hours. If you're in a location with weak cellular signal, the E300 does have a built-in signal-boosting algorithm, but you'll still see a dip in throughput. It's not a substitute for a proper dedicated line if you need guaranteed gigabit speeds. One practical strength that often gets glossed over in product copy is the dual WAN capability. The E300 lets you run the LTE connection as a primary link and then add a wired broadband line as a failover, or vice versa. In our test, we set the LTE as the primary because our ISP's fiber was spotty in the building's basement. When the fiber went down, the router switched over in under 3 seconds without any user intervention. That automatic failover is a huge confidence booster for any operation that can't afford downtime, like a small clinic's electronic health record system. On the flip side, the hidden trade-off is the reliance on the NetCloud subscription for many of those smart features. The dashboard's policy engine, VPN setup, and remote troubleshooting all require the cloud service to be active. If for some reason the subscription lapses, say you forget to renew after the 5-year term, the router reverts to a more basic mode where you have to manually configure everything via the local web UI. That isn't a deal breaker, but it does mean the value proposition is front-loaded. You get a lot of convenience now, but you're committing to a multi-year service cost that can add up over time. For a business that prefers to manage its own network appliances, that could feel like an unnecessary lock-in. Who should definitely consider the E300? Small to medium branches that need a reliable, always-on internet connection without hiring a network specialist. Think of a retail shop that runs a cloud POS, a field office that relies on a VPN back to headquarters, or a pop-up event space that needs quick Wi-Fi deployment and a backup LTE link. The built-in Wi-Fi is decent for 20-30 concurrent devices, so a coffee shop with a handful of laptops and tablets will be fine, but you wouldn't want to staff a busy co-working hub with 100 users on this single unit. Who might skip it? Larger enterprises that already have a dedicated WAN infrastructure and a team comfortable with Cisco or Juniper gear will likely find the E300's throughput limits and the LT-centric design insufficient. Also, anyone who lives in an area with consistently poor cellular coverage will be better off investing in a wired